Two philosophers stared into the abyss. Both saw the same thing. A universe without inherent meaning. A life stripped of divine purpose. Suffering without redemption. Death without transcendence. The void, cold, indifferent, infinite. Nietzsche looked into that darkness and said, "I will become God." Camus looked into that same darkness and said, "I will push the boulder anyway." One sought transcendence through power, the other found freedom through acceptance. Both rejected despair. Both refused nihilism. Both offered a way to live in a world that doesn't care if you exist. But their paths couldn't be more different. And understanding both might be the only way to survive the darkness without being consumed by it. Let's start with Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't interested in comfort. He wasn't interested in making life easier or more pleasant. He was interested in greatness. He looked at the collapse of religion, the death of God, the loss of absolute values, and he saw opportunity. For centuries, humans outsourced meaning. God gave purpose. The church gave morality. Tradition gave structure. But by the late 1800s, that framework was crumbling. Most people, Nietzsche argued, would respond with nihilism. If there's no God, nothing matters. If nothing matters, why do anything? But Nietzsche saw this as weakness, as failure of imagination. His answer: create your own meaning. Don't inherit values. Forge them. Don't wait for purpose to be given. Invent it. This is the will to power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. The capacity to shape your life according to your vision, not society's. To become who you are instead of what you're expected to be. But Nietzsche didn't pretend this was easy. He knew it required suffering, struggle, constant self-overcoming. He introduced the concept of eternal recurrence as a test. Imagine living your exact life, every moment, every pain, every failure, again and again, infinitely. Would you say yes to that? Would you embrace your existence so fully that you'd willingly repeat it forever? Most people would say no, because most people live reactively, tolerating life instead of creating it, enduring instead of embracing. Nietzsche demanded more. He wanted you to live so intentionally, so authentically, that you'd choose your life eternally. This is the Übermensch, the overman, not a superhuman, not a fascist fantasy, but a person who creates meaning in a meaningless universe, who says yes to life despite suffering, who transforms pain into fuel for creation. Nietzsche's darkness isn't something you escape, it's something you master. You walk through fire until the fire can't burn you anymore. You become stronger, harder, greater. You don't defeat the abyss, you become the abyss that looks back. Now meet Camus. Albert Camus was writing a century later, post-World War II, post-Holocaust, post-atomic bomb. The darkness wasn't theoretical anymore. It was historical, undeniable. Camus agreed with Nietzsche on one thing. Life is absurd. There's no inherent meaning, no cosmic justice, no divine plan. But Camus didn't want transcendence. He didn't want to become the Übermensch. He didn't want greatness. He wanted honesty and peace. Camus introduced the absurd as the fundamental human condition, the conflict between our need for meaning and the universe's refusal to provide it. We're meaning-seeking creatures in a meaningless world. We demand answers from a universe that doesn't speak our language. That's the absurdity, and it's inescapable. Most people respond to this with one of three strategies: suicide, physical or philosophical; religion, inventing meaning through faith; or hope, believing things will eventually make sense. Camus rejected all three. He called them escape, denial. His answer: rebellion. Not violent revolution, not protest, but philosophical rebellion. The refusal to surrender to absurdity or pretend it doesn't exist. You acknowledge the meaninglessness. You accept it fully. And then you live anyway. This is where Sisyphus comes in. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a mountain. Every time he reached the top, the boulder rolled back down. Forever. Meaningless labor. Eternal repetition. No progress, no escape. Most people see this as the ultimate torment, the perfect symbol of futility. But Camus saw something else. He saw freedom. Sisyphus doesn't have to push the boulder. The gods condemned him, but they can't force him to find meaning or purpose in it. They can't control his inner life. So Camus imagines Sisyphus happy, not because the task is meaningful, but because he's accepted its meaninglessness. He's stopped demanding that life makes sense, stopped waiting for reward, stopped hoping for rescue. He pushes the boulder because that's what he does. And in that acceptance, not resignation, but active embrace, he finds freedom. Camus wrote, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Not achievement, not transcendence, not becoming something greater. Just the struggle, the act, the choice to continue despite the absurdity." So where does this leave us? Nietzsche and Camus both stared into the same void. Both refused nihilism. Both offered ways to live without illusion. But their solutions are opposite. Nietzsche says, transform yourself, overcome, create, become more than you are. Use suffering as raw material for greatness. Camus says, accept yourself, rebel quietly, live fully, embrace the present moment without demanding it mean something. Nietzsche climbs, Camus walks. Nietzsche seeks transcendence. Camus finds contentment. Nietzsche is tension. Camus is release. And here's the interesting part. Modern psychology suggests both are right. Research on meaning shows that people need purpose, goals, growth, the belief that their actions matter. This is Nietzsche's territory. Without it, we stagnate, become depressed, lose motivation. But research on acceptance shows that constantly striving, always demanding more from yourself, never being satisfied, leads to burnout, anxiety, the hedonic treadmill. Acceptance, mindfulness, being present. These reduce suffering, not by achieving more, but by wanting less. This is Camus's territory, so maybe you need both. Nietzsche for the days when you need fire, when you need to create, to push, to overcome obstacles and become something greater. Camus for the days when you need peace, when you need to accept that not every moment requires meaning, that sometimes pushing the boulder is enough. Nietzsche when you're building, Camus when you're being. Nietzsche for ambition, Camus for contentment. Nietzsche to avoid stagnation, Camus to avoid exhaustion. Because if you only follow Nietzsche, you burn out. You're constantly at war with yourself. Never enough, never finished, never allowed to rest. But if you only follow Camus, you risk passivity, accepting things that shouldn't be accepted, mistaking resignation for rebellion. The synthesis: create meaning when you can, accept absurdity when you must, fight for what matters, let go of what doesn't, become more than you are, but don't forget to be who you are. Push the boulder up the mountain, but smile on the way down. Here's a story. Imagine you lose your job, your relationship ends, everything you built collapses. Nietzsche would say, this is your opportunity. Destroy the old self. Build something greater from the ruins. Use this pain to become who you were meant to be. Camus would say, this is life. Meaningless, absurd, indifferent. But you're still here, still breathing. So keep walking. Not because it leads somewhere, because walking is enough, which is right. Both. Grieve, then create. Accept, then act. Sit with the absurdity, then choose your boulder. You don't defeat the darkness, you learn to walk through it. Nietzsche teaches you how to walk with strength, how to carry weight, how to transform suffering into something beautiful and terrible in yours. Camus teaches you how to walk with lightness, how to let go of the weight you don't need, how to find freedom in the acceptance that none of this was ever guaranteed to make sense. Together, They teach you how to live, not by escaping the abyss, not by pretending it isn't there, but by walking through it. Eyes open, heart steady, creating when you can, accepting when you must, becoming more, being enough. Two philosophers, two paths, same darkness. Nietzsche conquered it. Camus befriended it. You get to choose which path fits this moment, because some days require fire, some days require peace, some days you need to become God, some days you need to push the boulder and smile. The darkness doesn't care which you choose, but you will. And that choice, that refusal to surrender to nihilism, that insistence on living despite the void, is the only victory that matters, not over the darkness, but within it. Nietzsche or Camus, fire or peace, creation or acceptance, both are right, both are necessary. The question isn't which philosophy is true, it's which one you need today.